What is going on, everyone? Today we're starting seeds and I'm really excited about it. Anytime I can start seeds, gets my mind going for spring, really helps kind of scratch that itch of spring fever. And we actually have a lot to start today. So we're gonna jump right on into it because a lot of you have been asking me, Luke, what can I be starting right now? And so if you're in that situation, obviously every location is gonna be different. Some of you might have already started your seeds. The seeds I'm gonna be starting are the ones that should be started roughly about 6 to 10 weeks before your last frost date. So those are gonna comprise of quite a lot of peppers, which we'll get into, and some herbs. We're still not yet quite into tomatoes. I know a lot of you are very excited to start your tomatoes. Trust me, I've read your messages. Tomatoes are in the next probably 3 to 4 weeks. You don't wanna plant your tomatoes just yet because they tend to grow really fast. And if you don't have space to up pot them and provide them the space to grow, they're gonna be really cramped and really stressed. So hold off on tomatoes, but today it's gonna be all about peppers and herbs. Let's go. All right, so the first things we are gonna be starting today are actually some flowers. I know I said peppers and herbs, but we did have some flowers that we actually cold stratified in the fridge. We had some Iceland poppies. We're gonna be starting another succession of these because these really need to get into some soil. They are already starting to sprout, look really great on the paper towels. We also have here some zinnias here. They are already looking really wonderful. They've already started sprouting like crazy. A little bit too late on those, but those are gonna go in some soil. And we also have some butterfly milkweed. So these are 3 flowers that we're gonna be starting right now. And again, that's because they take a long time to get up and growing. The zinnias, you could start them a lot later as well. But if you want really big bushy plants, because they're an annual, they're not gonna be a perennial that's gonna survive year after year, you want to start them as early as possible. Again, kind of falls into that tomato category. But with zinnias, the nice thing is the fact you can keep trimming them back and keep them nice and bushy, and then you can move a nice bushy plant outdoors. A little more difficult to do that with a tomato. If you prune a tomato plant, you're gonna end up with a kind of more of a mess. Whereas a zinnia, you're gonna end up with more of a bushy plant, and that bushy plant is gonna yield way more flowers in the long run. So we're starting some zinnias right now, but we're also gonna start some more zinnias in about 3 to 4 weeks as well. All right, so quick tip for you guys. When you have your seeds sprouted in a Ziploc bag like this, a lot of times people make the mistake of opening the Ziploc bag and trying to reach in. At that point, just cut or rip down the side and then fold it open. It should, because it's been heat sealed, it should rip open really easily. And then you can simply peel it back, just like that. And then take this, there you go. Now you got all your seeds and your little sprouts exposed. You can grab them right like that. This is my preferred method of grabbing the seedlings. The whole seedling and the root and all, move it over to the soil. All right, on the butterfly milkweed, we're just taking these and we've already divoted the holes. So basically we're just trying to set them in there as gently as possible. And then we're gonna fill over top of it. And like I said, if you happen to cover them up a little bit, they're gonna be totally fine. We probably save the most amount of money on our grocery bill on herbs, believe it or not. Not only fresh, but also dried. We'll grow them, consume them fresh throughout the growing season, and as things start winding down, we'll do a big bulk harvest, and generally we'll dehydrate them, or we'll turn them into little ice cube trays. We'll take some oil, like olive oil, blend them up, and then you have basically like ready to make little soup cubes or stuff like that. Really versatile, but saves us a ton of money. So we do love growing a lot of herbs. Up first here is the St. John's wort. Next is the spilanthes, a toothache plant. These are awesome, really great. If you got a slight toothache or a kid that's teething, awesome to have those on hand. Cumin, we're gonna try growing some cumin this year. Really excited about that. This one you wanna start about 6 to 10 weeks before your last frost date. Oregano, always gotta plant some oregano. Rosemary, now we do have rosemary cuttings, but we're also gonna start some rosemary seeds. These take a long time. You wanna start these like 10 to 12 weeks before your last frost date. So start these as soon as possible. Lemongrass just takes a long time to get up and growing. So you wanna start those about 4 weeks before your last frost date. If you're in a warm climate, I prefer to start them about 7 to 8 weeks before our last frost date because they just take a little while to grow and our growing season is shorter. Also, French thyme. This is our first year growing French thyme from seed. Generally, we grow English thyme So because this is a perennial, it's gonna come back year after year, and so we're getting ourselves some French thyme started. Now with this French thyme here, the seeds are so small that I'm actually not really going to bury them. What I'm really gonna do is just kind of level the soil out, just as if they were buried. I'm gonna sprinkle seeds right on top. And then all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna gently water them, and that'll be enough disturbance of the soil to basically bury them all they really need. They're so, so small. I mean, look how small these seeds are. Look at this. Look how small those are. Those are so itty bitty, like a flecks of pepper. And also, I know you guys are gonna ask this, well, what do you do about planting one seed? How do you do that? We don't. We plant like usually probably 3 or 4 seeds per cell. And then if we decide to thin after that, we'll thin. If not, we just let them all grow. So next is our lemongrass. Now we got lemongrass here going into our 288 cell tray. These suckers are really small. So they're basically gonna grow. And once they start to grow, we're gonna transplant them as a seedling once they have maybe 2 to 3 sets of adult leaves. It's gonna be really fast. But the great thing is that this allows us to grow 288 plants in the same amount of space as say like 100 or 72, because these are all 10 inches by 20 inches. It's still the same dimension flat, but we're getting 288 plants in here. So for the real estate that these plants take up, it's gonna be very minimal. And then we're gonna move them out into our greenhouse. Up next are peppers. Now these peppers are some of our first that we're gonna start. We are gonna start some more in about a week or two, but I don't wanna have too many going at once. It's just easier for me to manage, especially when I'm growing so many plants. So a quick tip for you guys is if you're starting a huge garden and you have a lot of plants to start, just because we're starting these right now doesn't mean we're not gonna start more in about a week or two, because we absolutely are. And that helps us to kind of manage our time, and not only that, but manage our plants. When everything is sprouting all at the same time, it's a lot that we have to worry about. It's also a lot that then, when they're time to transplant, we have to transplant them all at the same time, otherwise they're stressed. It's a slight kind of modification off of succession planting. We are succession planting, but we're succession planting so we don't lose our mind once they all start to germinate, right? Usually succession planting in the garden would be like planting out lettuce and then waiting 1 or 2 weeks to plant out lettuce again, and then waiting 1 or 2 more weeks and planting out more lettuce, and that gives you a continual harvest. We're gonna kind of succession sow or succession plant our pepper seeds so that we're not being overwhelmed. But the first round that we're starting here are quite a good amount of them. And we have here the yellow Corno di Toro, one of my all-time favorite Italian grilling peppers. It is just so good. The coral bell pepper. This is a beautiful orange, blocky bell pepper. Really, really sweet. And it just kind of gives you that, it just tastes like summer. It's such a beautiful taste. I absolutely love it. A new one for us, this is the lilac bell pepper. This actually comes from Europe. A plant breeder started it over in Europe about 12 years ago. And this one has just really taken the vegetable world by storm, just because it's so incredible. The vibrancy on this is like next level. So I absolutely have to have that one in our garden this year. Next is the diamond bell pepper. This is a very white, not true white, but more like a cream bell pepper. Super, super pretty. It's very similar if you've ever tried the gypsy pepper, only larger fruits, more yield. Give it a shot. Next, always gotta have this in the garden, jalapeno. Jalapenos are just, they're in every garden all the time. They're so good. We throw them in everything from just roasting them and eating them to stuffing them to making cowboy candy with them for dips at parties. It's so versatile, really awesome. All right, final 4 peppers here that we're gonna be starting today. First one is the Sun Bright Bell Pepper. Now this one is an all-time favorite for me. It tastes like, I mean, it is so sweet, so crisp. It tastes like candy. It's so good, but it's also really crisp. And the color, super bright. I love the vibrancy of this pepper. You just can't get a brighter yellow. Now, a lot of you do ask if you can harvest these peppers before they actually turn their final color and still eat them, and the answer is absolutely. We harvest these all the time when they're still, somewhat green. Oftentimes, we'll wait for them just to start to blush on the shoulders. They'll start to turn a little bit, and we'll pull them. The reason why is because they will ripen indoors, but also it allows the plant to revert that energy to producing more fruit. Here in Michigan, we do have kind of a short growing season. It's only about 120 to 130 days. And because it's so short, we have to maximize every minute of that growing season. And one way that we do that is by harvesting our peppers slightly early. And yeah, sometimes we eat green bell peppers that are supposed to be yellow or red, and that's fine too. It's totally fine. But a lot of times we don't let them fully ripen on the plant for that reason. So another little tip for you. Next is the Keystone resistant giant bell pepper. This is again just another giant blocky bell pepper, one of our favorites. We add this to our garden every year. It's good, not only green, but also red when it's fully ripe. It's just awesome all around. And what's great is the fact that this one tends to yield about 25% more than some of our other bell peppers. So this is a great yielder. Then we have here the Pasilla Bajío. This is what we kind of consider a drying pepper. It's a Mexican drying chili. We use these for primarily making salsas as well as making mole. If you've ever made mole, it is so good. Well, if you've ever made mole, you know it's so good. If you've never made mole, it is insane. It's so good. It's actually it's almost like a chocolatey curry with a peanut butter base, but they use the peppers to add that smokiness. And there's not so much chocolate and peanut butter that it tastes like a dessert. It's more like a curry. It's like if you've ever had like a Thai chicken, like a chicken satay, right? That peanut sauce that you put over top, it's very similar to what you'd use in mole, only it's got some chocolate in there and these peppers, which adds a nice rich smokiness and a little bit of heat, but it's beautiful. So we always grow some Pasilla Bajíos. And then finally is one of my favorites. And this never is not grown. It's always in our garden. It's the peperoncini pepper. And this is a Greek, either pickling pepper or a charring pepper. And I absolutely love to char this on a really hot stove or over the grill. I'll char them really quickly. And then I'll take olive oil and I'll blend it up with some fresh basil. And I'll use that oil to then drizzle over top of the blistered peppers. And it is so incredible. It's just awesome. They're slightly spicy, but they have this wonderful kind of sweet, briny taste, even though they're not even pickled. They have that kind of sweet, briny, vinegary taste to them once they're charred, and it just gets amplified when you cook them. So peperoncini is going in the garden. Last but not least, in case that you're new to this channel and you don't know what soil we're using, I'm gonna mention it. For all of you, this is the end of the video, because if you've been watching the channel, you'll know what this is. This is a mixture of Pro Mix soil and coco coir. We have been switching over our entire seed starting mix actually to about 25% coco coir added into our Pro Mix. And what that really has done for us is it actually adds a lot of water holding capabilities, even more than the peat moss base. It is phenomenal. It also has about 15% by volume perlite and about 15% by volume vermiculite. It is absolutely amazing. We also added in here some trifecta fertilizer to give them some food once they start to germinate. And that is our mix. That's our seed starting mix. We will sift this out. There's still a few chunks in here, like I just pulled out a little stick there, but we sift this out so it's extra fine. And it really helps to just kind of fill in all the cracks, reduce how many air gaps are inside of these cells, really helps with that root development. And because trifecta has beneficial bacteria and fungi, it helps to inoculate the soil and really give those roots a chance to spread out, web out, and then you get an amazing root system, which then when they're ready to transplant from this cell into a larger pot, they're that much more ready to get off to the races. So really love this soil blend. And again, just rewatch it for that recipe, but it's about 25% coco coir that's been hydrated to Pro Mix, which already has the perlite and vermiculite added. And then we just add about a cup or two of trifecta. It's that simple. All right, so there you guys go. There are all the seeds we're gonna be starting in late February, early March. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you all learned something new. If you did, make sure to hit the like button. Hope you guys enjoyed. As always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow bigger. I'll catch you all later. See ya.